They told you that power looks like a throne, a title, a loud voice in a crowded room. They were wrong. The most dangerous man in any room is never the one speaking. He is the one watching, calculating, already 3 moves ahead while everyone else is still reacting. You have been taught to chase visibility, to perform, to announce yourself. But real power, the kind that lasts, the kind that cannot be taken, operates in complete silence. Machiavelli understood this. The prince who rules loudest falls fastest. But the hand that moves unseen, that hand never loses its grip. This is not a lesson for the weak. This is not motivation. This is not inspiration wrapped in pretty words. This is a cold, surgical breakdown of how true power is built, maintained, and protected, without ever being traced back to you. You are about to learn how to become the invisible hand, the force behind outcomes, the architect of results that others take credit for, while you hold all the strings. Most men want to be seen. You are going to learn why that is their greatest weakness, and your greatest weapon. Number 1. The myth of visible power. Every man who has ever chased power has made the same fatal mistake. He confused visibility with control. He wanted the title, the recognition, the applause. He wanted people to know his name, to feel his presence when he walked into the room, to turn their heads and whisper. And in doing so, he handed his enemies a map, a target, a blueprint of everything he valued and everything he feared losing. History is littered with the graves of powerful men who made themselves too visible, too loud, too easy to read. Kings who demanded loyalty in public were the first to be betrayed in private. Generals who celebrated victory too openly were the first to be undermined in silence. The throne has always been the most dangerous seat in the room, not because of what it demands, but because of what it exposes. When you sit in the light, everyone can study you, every weakness, every pattern, every reaction. But the man standing in the shadows? Nobody is studying him. Nobody is preparing against him. Nobody even knows to look for him. Machiavelli wrote that men are controlled more by appearances than by reality, and most men spend their entire lives managing appearances, performing strength, displaying dominance, while the truly powerful man is somewhere quiet, somewhere unseen, pulling the very strings that make those performances possible. Visibility is a costume. Power is the hand wearing it. And the hand is never supposed to be seen. Number 2, the architecture of silence. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not the absence of power. Silence is where power is constructed, brick by brick, in the dark, away from watching eyes and listening ears. Most men are terrified of silence because silence forces them to confront what they actually are, without the noise to hide behind. So they talk, they explain themselves, they justify their moves, announce their intentions, broadcast their ambitions, and in doing so, they hand over every strategic advantage they ever had. The man who speaks too much has already lost before the game begins. But the man who has mastered silence, who can sit in a room full of noise and reveal absolutely nothing, that man is operating on a completely different level of power. Machiavelli understood that information is the true currency of control, and silence is how you accumulate it without spending a single coin. When you say nothing, others rush to fill the void. They reveal their insecurities, their alliances, their hidden agendas, their fears, all while you sit there, calm, composed, collecting every piece of intelligence they unknowingly hand you. Silence is a weapon that looks like patience. It is a trap that looks like disinterest. It is an interrogation that feels like a conversation. The truly dangerous man has trained himself to be comfortable in silence where others grow anxious, to be still where others fidget, to listen where others perform. And while the loud man is busy being heard, the silent man is busy understanding the room, understanding the people, understanding the mechanics beneath the surface that nobody else is paying attention to because they are too consumed with their own noise. This is the architecture of silence. It is not built in a day. It requires discipline. It requires the ego death of no longer needing to be acknowledged, validated, or understood by the people around you. When you stop needing to be heard, you start becoming truly powerful. Comment below right now, "Silence is my strategy," because that is exactly what you are building from this moment forward. Number 3. How puppets are made. Nobody believes they are a puppet. That is the first and most important thing you need to understand about control. Every man who has ever been manipulated, directed, or silently commanded by another person has gone to his grave believing he made his own choices, followed his own instincts, and lived life on his own terms. That is not a coincidence. That is the signature of a master. The invisible hand does not force, it guides. It does not command, it conditions. It does not demand, it arranges circumstances so carefully, so precisely, that the target arrives at the desired conclusion entirely on his own, feeling proud of himself for getting there. This is the dark art that Machiavelli hinted at, and that Robert Greene codified. The understanding that human beings are not rational creatures making logical decisions. They are emotional creatures who rationalize decisions after the fact. They are driven by ego, by fear, by the desperate need for approval, by deep-rooted insecurities they have never addressed and will never admit to. And every single one of those drivers is a string that the invisible hand can locate, can test, can pull at exactly the right moment to produce exactly the right response. The puppet master does not look for weak men. Weak men are too unpredictable, too unstable, too likely to collapse under pressure and become useless. The puppet master looks for proud men, ambitious men, men with something to prove and someone to prove it to. Because pride is the easiest string of all to pull. Stroke a proud man's ego, and he will walk through fire for you. Challenge a proud man's identity, and he will destroy his own alliances just to prove a point. Threaten a proud man's status, and he will make irrational, emotional decisions that serve your agenda perfectly, while he believes he is defending his own. This is not theory. This is the operating system of human behavior, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You will watch it play out in every boardroom, every relationship, every political arena, every social dynamic you ever encounter. The conditions for control are always already present. You simply need to learn how to read them. You need to learn how to identify what a person values most, what they fear losing, what they need from others to feel complete. And then you need to position yourself as either the provider or the potential threat of those things. Not both at once. That is amateur thinking. The master alternates. He gives warmth and then withdraws it. He provides validation and then withholds it. He creates dependency not through force, but through rhythm. A rhythm so subtle, so consistent, so deeply embedded in the dynamic that the other person begins to organize their behavior around your approval, without ever realizing that is what they are doing. Puppets are not made through cruelty. They are made through patience, precision, and a cold understanding of what it means to be human. Comment right now, "I pull the strings," say it and mean it, because that is the shift in identity that separates the controlled from the ones doing the controlling. Number 4, the art of strategic invisibility. There is a difference between being invisible and being ignored, and that difference is everything. The man who is ignored has no power, no presence, no weight in the room. People look past him because there is nothing worth looking at. But the man who is strategically invisible, he has engineered his absence from the spotlight with the same precision that a chess grandmaster engineers a checkmate 15 moves in advance. He is not absent because he is irrelevant. He is absent because he understands that presence, when overused, becomes predictable, and predictability is the death of power. Every time you make yourself fully visible, fully readable, fully available, you are handing the world a manual on how to handle you, how to counter you, how to prepare for you. The strategically invisible man never allows that manual to be written. He appears when it serves him and disappears when it does not. And the irregularity of his presence creates something far more powerful than constant visibility ever could. It creates mystique. And mystique is one of the most potent psychological forces in the entire architecture of power. When people cannot fully read you, cannot fully predict you, cannot fully understand what you want or what you are capable of, their minds do something automatic and deeply human. They fill in the blanks. They project. They imagine. And almost always, what they imagine is more intimidating, more impressive, more formidable than the reality could ever be. This is why Machiavelli warned against overexposure. This is why the most feared rulers in history were not the ones who showed everything, but the ones who revealed just enough to keep people uncertain and off balance. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, and discomfort produces compliance. When people are unsure of where you stand, they are careful around you. They measure their words. They second-guess their moves. They give you space and deference not because you demanded it, but because the unknown commands respect in a way that familiarity never can. Strategic invisibility is also about controlling the narrative of your own identity. Most men allow the world to define them through constant interaction, constant reaction, constant presence. They respond to every provocation, engage with every challenge, show up for every confrontation, and in doing so, they allow others to draw conclusions about who they are and what they stand for. The invisible hand never allows this. He curates every interaction with surgical precision. He decides what people see, what they hear, what they believe about him, and he does this not through lies but through selective revelation. He shows strength when strength serves the moment. He shows humility when humility disarms suspicion. He shows warmth when warmth builds loyalty. And he shows nothing when nothing is the most powerful statement he can make. This level of self-mastery does not come naturally to most men because it runs completely counter to the ego's deepest hunger. The hunger to be known, to be seen, to be validated by the world around you. Killing that hunger is one of the hardest and most necessary things you will ever do on the path to real power. Because the moment you stop needing the world to see you, you become free to move through it in ways that the visible man never can. You can operate in spaces he cannot enter. You can influence outcomes he cannot touch. You can build structures of power so deep, so embedded, so invisible that by the time anyone realizes what has been constructed, it is already too late to dismantle it. That is the art. Not the performance of power, not the display of dominance, but the quiet, cold, calculated construction of a position so strong that it requires no announcement, no defense, and no permission from anyone. Drop in the comments right now, "My power needs no announcement." Lock that into your identity, because the man who understands this has already separated himself from every competitor around him. Number 5. Controlling without commands. The weakest form of control is the kind that announces itself. The manager who micromanages reveals his insecurity. The leader who barks orders reveals his fear of being disobeyed. The man who constantly asserts his dominance reveals the one truth he is desperately trying to hide, that his position is not secure enough to stand without constant reinforcement. Real control, the kind that the invisible hand exercises, never announces itself because it does not need to. It is already embedded in the environment, in the culture, in the expectations, in the unspoken rules that govern how people behave long before any direct interaction ever takes place. This is the highest level of influence a man can achieve, not controlling what people do, but controlling what people think is possible, what they believe is acceptable, what they assume is expected of them. When you operate at this level, you do not need to give commands. because the conditions you have created give the commands for you. Machiavelli understood that the prince who rules through fear of punishment is always one rebellion away from losing everything. But the prince who has shaped the beliefs and values of his people rules without resistance, because the people are enforcing his will upon themselves. This principle does not belong only to politics. It belongs to every domain of human interaction: business, relationships, social dynamics, organizations of every kind. The man who controls the frame controls the outcome. The frame is the invisible structure of assumptions, expectations, and social norms that surround every interaction. Most people never question the frame. They simply operate within it, believing that the rules they are following are natural, neutral, and self-evident, never stopping to ask who built those rules, who benefits from them, and who has the power to change them. The invisible hand builds frames. He establishes what is normal in his environment. He sets the tone so early and so subtly that by the time others arrive, the culture is already formed and they simply absorb it as reality. In a professional setting, this looks like a man who never had to demand respect, because from the very first interaction, he conducted himself in a way that made respect the only logical response. In a social setting, this looks like the man who never had to fight for status, because the way he carries himself, speaks, and moves through space communicates a value so self-evident that the group instinctively organizes around him. In a personal dynamic, this looks like the man who never had to ask for loyalty, because he built a relationship architecture so carefully, so deliberately, that loyalty became the other person's own deeply held desire. None of these outcomes required force. None required confrontation. None required a single direct command. They required vision, patience, and the cold discipline to play the long game while everyone around you is playing for immediate results. Controlling without commands also means mastering the art of indirect influence, the well-placed idea delivered at the right moment to the right person, the question that leads someone to a conclusion you already reached 3 weeks ago, the silence that creates pressure more effectively than any argument ever could. These are the tools of the invisible hand. They are quiet, they are clean, they leave no fingerprints, and they produce results that the loud, forceful, command-driven man could never achieve, because his approach always triggers resistance while yours triggers cooperation. People do not resist what they believe is their own idea. People do not rebel against a cage they cannot see. And people do not question the authority of a man they have been conditioned, slowly and invisibly, to trust without ever being told to. This is control at its purest. This is power at its coldest. And this is exactly what you are here to master. Number 6, the invisible network. No man, regardless of how disciplined, how intelligent, how strategically invisible he becomes, can hold real power in isolation. Power is not a solo endeavor. It never has been, and it never will be. The greatest misconception that men carry into their pursuit of dominance is the belief that strength means self-sufficiency, that needing others is weakness, that asking for support is vulnerability, that building alliances is somehow beneath the man who has mastered himself. That belief is not strength. That belief is a cage, and the man who lives inside it will always have a ceiling on what he can achieve, no matter how capable he is individually. The invisible hand understands something that the lone wolf never will, that power is a network phenomenon. It is not about what one man can do. It is about what one man can coordinate, what one man can set in motion through the carefully constructed web of relationships, obligations, loyalties, and strategic dependencies that he has spent years quietly building around himself. Machiavelli was explicit about this. The prince who relies solely on his own strength is always vulnerable. But the prince who has built a network of people who need him, who owe him, who benefit from his continued success, that prince has created a system of protection and amplification that multiplies his power far beyond his individual capacity. This is the invisible network, and it is built not through grand gestures or public declarations of alliance, but through 1,000 small, deliberate acts of strategic generosity, well-timed assistance, and the quiet accumulation of favors that function as the true currency of lasting influence. Understand this deeply. A favor given at the right moment to the right person is worth more than any contract, any title, any formal agreement ever written. Because favors create obligation, and obligation creates loyalty, and loyalty creates a human infrastructure around you that operates even when you are not in the room, even when you are not watching, even when you are completely invisible. Your network becomes your presence. Your relationships become your reach. And the man who has built this network correctly never needs to be in every room, because he has people in every room who are already aligned with his interests, already moving in directions that serve his agenda, already creating conditions that benefit him, and doing so willingly even, enthusiastically, because they believe they are acting in their own interest. That alignment of interests is the masterpiece. It is not manipulation in the crude sense. It is architecture. It is the careful design of a system where what is good for your network is also good for you, where the people connected to you prosper through their connection, where loyalty is not demanded but naturally produced, because the relationship itself is genuinely valuable to everyone inside it. The invisible hand never builds a network through fear alone. Fear-based networks are brittle, and they shatter the moment a stronger fear appears. He builds through value, through reliability, through the consistent demonstration that being connected to him is one of the most strategically sound positions a person can occupy. He is the man people call when they need something done quietly. He is the man people protect, because losing his favor costs more than any temporary gain from betrayal. He is the man whose absence from a room is felt more powerfully than most men's presence, because the network he has built carries his influence into every space, every conversation, every decision, even when his body is nowhere near it. And here is the coldest truth about the invisible network. The people inside it often do not know they are inside it. They think they are simply in a good relationship with a reliable, valuable man. They do not see the architecture. They do not see the design. They do not see the invisible hand that built the structure they are living inside of. And that is exactly how it is supposed to be. The network functions best when it is felt but never seen, when it is powerful but never announced, when it operates like gravity, completely invisible, absolutely undeniable, and utterly impossible to escape once you are within its pull. Comment right now, "I am the network," because the man who understands this truth has just unlocked a level of strategic thinking that most men will never reach in their entire lives. Number 7. Fear without a face. Fear is the oldest instrument of control in human history, and every man who has ever held power has understood its value. But most men use fear incorrectly. They use it loudly. They use it visibly. They make threats, display aggression, punish publicly, and believe that the spectacle of their power is what makes people comply. And in the short term, they are right. Visible fear works. It produces immediate compliance. It silences opposition in the moment. It creates the appearance of control. But it also does something else, something far more dangerous to the man wielding it. It creates a face. It attaches a name, a presence, a specific human target to the source of that fear. And the moment fear has a face, it can be confronted. It can be planned against. It can be waited out. History has proven this repeatedly. The tyrant who rules through visible terror always generates, slowly and inevitably, the exact resistance that destroys him. Because when men know exactly what they fear and exactly where it comes from, they can organize around that knowledge. They can find each other, unite their grievances, and direct their collective courage at a single, visible point. The loudly feared man has handed his enemies both a target and a rallying point. The invisible hand never makes this mistake. The invisible hand understands that the most durable, most paralyzing, most strategically valuable form of fear is the kind that has no face. The kind that cannot be located, cannot be confronted, cannot be planned against, because its source is never clearly identified. This is not the fear of a specific threat. It is the fear of uncertainty itself. It is the ambient, low-frequency dread that settles into a person's psychology when they sense that something powerful is operating around them but cannot see it, cannot name it, cannot measure it. This kind of fear does not produce defiance. It produces caution. It produces self-censorship. It produces a permanent hesitation in the people around you. A subtle but constant second-guessing of their own moves, because somewhere in the back of their mind is the unshakable feeling that they are being watched, that they are being assessed, that missteps have consequences they cannot fully anticipate. And that feeling, that invisible psychological pressure, is more controlling than any visible threat could ever be. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, but he was speaking to princes of his era who had armies and dungeons at their disposal. The modern invisible hand operates with something more refined than armies. He operates with reputation, with strategic ambiguity, with the carefully cultivated perception that he sees more than he reveals, knows more than he speaks, and responds to disloyalty in ways that are slow, cold, and inevitable, rather than hot, fast, and visible. This reputation does not need to be built through dramatic demonstrations of power. In fact, dramatic demonstrations are counterproductive because they reveal the mechanism. The most effective reputation is built through a small number of quiet, decisive, perfectly timed responses to betrayal or disrespect. Responses so calm, so measured, so disproportionately effective that they generate stories. And stories spread. And once the story exists, once people in your environment have heard, even secondhand, what happens when someone moves against you, the fear installs itself automatically in everyone who hears it. You never have to repeat the demonstration because the story does the work for you indefinitely. This is fear without a face. Not a monster that can be slain, not a tyrant that can be overthrown, but a presence, a reputation, an invisible weight in the atmosphere of every room you have ever touched, reminding everyone in it that the man behind the outcomes they cannot trace is still watching, still aware, still in possession of a patience so cold and a memory so precise that the cost of crossing him will always outweigh the benefit. And the most powerful aspect of this psychological dynamic is that you do not even need to do anything to maintain it once it is established. The fear sustains itself. The caution sustains itself. The respect sustains itself. Because nobody wants to be the one who tests the theory and discovers, too late, that the stories were not exaggerated. You become the unknown variable in every calculation people make around you. And the unknown variable is always the most feared element in any equation. Comment below right now, my silence speaks louder than their noise. Because the man who has internalized this understands that his most powerful weapon has never required a trigger, a target, or a single visible move. Number 8. The long game of shadows. Every man who has ever lost power lost it for the same fundamental reason. He was playing a short game in a world that rewards the long one. He wanted results now, recognition now, dominance now. He moved too fast, revealed too much, consolidated too aggressively, and in his hunger for immediate victory, he destroyed the very foundations that sustainable power requires. The invisible hand never makes this mistake, because the invisible hand has done something that most men are psychologically incapable of doing. He has divorced his sense of progress from the need for visible results. He has trained himself to find satisfaction not in the applause of the moment, but in the silent, invisible advancement of a position that most people around him cannot even see being built. This is the long game of shadows. It is the most disciplined, most demanding, most psychologically rigorous form of strategic thinking that a man can practice. And it is the one that produces the most unassailable, most durable, most genuinely untouchable positions of power, that have ever existed in human history. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors the prepared, not the impulsive, that the man who plants his seeds in silence and tends them with patience will always, eventually, harvest a crop that the reactive, short-sighted man cannot compete with. The long game begins with the acceptance of a truth that the ego violently resists, that your most important moves today will not produce visible results for months, sometimes years. The relationship you invest in now will not pay dividends until a moment of crisis 3 years from now. The reputation you are quietly building will not crystallize into real leverage until the exact moment when leverage is most needed. The information you are collecting, the patterns you are studying, the weaknesses you are cataloging in the people around you, none of it feels powerful in the immediate moment. It feels like waiting. It feels like patience. It feels, to the undisciplined observer, like nothing is happening at all. And that is precisely the point. The long game of shadows is designed to be invisible, not just to your adversaries, but to neutral observers as well. Nobody should be able to look at your life, your behavior, your daily movements, and identify the architecture of the position you are building. Your strategy should be invisible inside your routine. Your ambition should be invisible inside your composure. Your advancement should be invisible inside your apparent stillness. Because the moment your long game becomes readable, it becomes counterable, and a long game that can be countered has lost its most essential advantage. There is also a psychological dimension to the long game that most men completely overlook: the dimension of attrition. Time is a weapon, and the invisible hand wields it with devastating precision. While the visible, aggressive, short-game player burns his energy in constant confrontation, constant performance, constant maintenance of his visible position, the shadow player is conserving. He is accumulating. He is allowing the environment to do work on his behalf while he remains still, patient, and strategically inactive in ways that others misread as weakness or disengagement. He lets his competitors exhaust themselves. He lets their alliances fracture under the natural pressure of time and self-interest. He lets their mistakes accumulate, their reputations erode, their energy deplete, and then, when the moment is precisely right, when the conditions are maximally favorable and the cost of action is at its absolute lowest, he moves, not with chaos, not with aggression, but with the calm, surgical precision of a man who has been preparing for this exact moment since before anyone else even knew the game had started. That move, that single perfectly timed intervention after months or years of invisible preparation, is what looks like genius to the outside world. They call it luck, they call it instinct, they call it natural talent. They do not see the shadows, they do not see the years of silent positioning that made that moment not just possible, but inevitable. And the invisible hand never corrects them. He lets them believe in luck, because a man who is believed to be lucky is far less threatening than a man who is understood to be strategically brilliant. Let them underestimate the depth of your patience. Let them misread your stillness as stagnation. Let them believe that nothing is happening while everything is happening. Because in the long game of shadows, the most powerful position you can occupy is the one that nobody knows exists yet. Number 9. When they finally see you, it's too late. There comes a moment in every long game when the invisible finally becomes visible. Not because you made a mistake, not because someone outmaneuvered you, but because you chose to reveal yourself, because the position you have spent months, years, quietly constructing has reached a state of completion so total, so deeply embedded, so structurally sound that visibility no longer carries risk. This is the moment that separates the truly masterful from everyone else. This is the moment when the invisible hand opens and the world finally sees what has been holding everything together all along. And by that point, it is already too late for anyone to do anything about it. The allies are already in place. The obligations are already established. The dependencies are already so deeply woven into the fabric of the environment that dismantling them would cause more damage to the people trying to dismantle them than to you. This is not arrogance. This is architecture. This is the payoff of every silent move, every patient calculation, every moment of disciplined invisibility that you maintained while lesser men were busy performing. The shock that people experience in this moment is not just surprise, it is the specific, destabilizing shock of realizing that the reality they believed they were operating in was never the actual reality, that the dynamics they thought they understood were always being shaped by a hand they never saw, that the outcomes they believed were the result of chance or collective decision or their own agency were in fact the product of a design they were never meant to detect. That shock produces something very specific in people. It produces a rapid, involuntary reassessment of every past interaction, every past decision, every past moment they shared with you. They begin to understand, all at once, the full depth of what they missed. And that understanding does not produce anger as its primary response. It produces awe. It produces a profound, unsettling respect for the level of intelligence, patience, and strategic discipline required to build what you built without ever being detected. Even your adversaries, even the people who would have opposed you if they had seen you coming, find themselves unable to mount a coherent resistance, because resistance requires clarity about what you are opposing, and the invisible hand never gave them that clarity. He gave them fragments, impressions, carefully curated glimpses that never added up to a complete picture until he was ready for them to. And now that the picture is complete, now that the full architecture is visible, the overwhelming response from everyone in the environment is not confrontation, it is accommodation. Because by this point, opposing you is not just difficult, it is irrational, it is strategically unsound. It is the kind of move that only a man who has not fully assessed the situation would consider making. And you have made sure, through years of quiet positioning, that the people who matter most in your environment are all men who assess situations very carefully before they act. They look at what you have built. They look at the depth of your network, the solidity of your alliances, the precision of your past moves, the patience embedded in your entire trajectory, and they make the only logical decision available to them. They align, not because you forced them, not because you threatened them, but because aligning with you is simply the most strategically intelligent position they can occupy, given everything they now understand about who you are and what you have already built. This is the cold, magnificent payoff of the long game. This is what all the silence was for. This is what all the patience purchased. Comment right now, "I was always the architect." Say it, and understand that this is not ego. This is the quiet confidence of a man who has done the work in the dark and is now watching the world finally catch up to what he already knew. Number 10. Become the hand. Everything you have heard today is not theory. It is not philosophy confined to books and lecture halls and the comfortable distance of academic discussion. It is a living, breathing, operational framework for how power actually moves in the real world. Beneath the surface, beneath the noise, beneath the performances that most men mistake for the thing itself. You came into this knowing that something was missing. You could feel it. The gap between where you are and where you know you are capable of being. The frustration of watching less intelligent, less disciplined, less deserving men occupy positions that should belong to someone with your level of awareness. That frustration is not weakness. That frustration is signal. It is the pressure of an unlocked potential, pushing against the walls of an old identity that no longer fits who you are becoming. And what you are becoming, if you have truly absorbed everything in this script today, is something that most men will never have the courage or the discipline to become. You are becoming the hand. Not the face, not the voice, not the performer on the stage collecting applause and accumulating enemies in equal measure. The hand. The unseen force, the architect of outcomes. The man behind the results that others celebrate, without ever understanding where those results truly came from. This is not a small shift. This is a complete reconstruction of how you move through the world, how you relate to power, how you understand your own identity in relation to the people and environments around you. It requires you to kill the part of yourself that needs to be seen, needs to be validated, needs to be acknowledged by the crowd in order to feel that your efforts are real and your progress is meaningful. That part of you has been your biggest limitation. Bury it. Because on the other side of that ego death is a version of you that is genuinely untouchable, not because nobody can find you, but because by the time anyone understands what you have built, the foundation is too deep, the network too vast, the position too structurally embedded to threaten. Machiavelli did not write for the men who wanted to be kings in name. He wrote for the men who wanted to hold the power that kings depend on. He wrote for the advisors, the architects, the strategists who understood that the throne is a target and the hand behind the throne is a fortress. You have just been given the blueprint of that fortress. What you do with it now is entirely your decision. But understand this, the world does not change for men who understand power only intellectually. The world changes for men who internalize these principles so deeply that they begin to reshape their behavior, their relationships, their daily decisions, their long-term positioning, quietly, consistently, invisibly, without announcement and without apology. Every day from this moment forward is an opportunity to practice strategic invisibility, to build your network with precision, to play the long game while everyone around you chases short-term visibility, to control without commanding, to influence without being traced, to construct a position of power so deep and so silent that when it finally becomes visible to the world, the only response available to anyone is absolute, unqualified respect. That is the life of the invisible hand. That is the Machiavellian path. And it begins not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, not when you feel ready. It begins right now, in this moment, with the decision to stop performing and start building. Drop your final comment below. Machiavellian mode made ME the hand, because you are not the same man who pressed play on this video. If this broke something open in you, hit that like button, subscribe to Machiavellian mode, and turn on notifications. Because what is coming next will take everything you learned today and sharpen it into something even colder, even more precise, and even more powerful. The hand is never finished being forged. Neither are you.